Welcome, everyone, to our latest cast, the latest IAFM podcast. Here today, we have a very special guest. Some people have stories that feel big, and then some feel big and personal at the same time. And today's guest is one of those. Alison Brown is here with us. She is a Grammy-winning banjoist, a Hall of Fame musician, a producer, a label founder, but she's also someone who grew up right here in Connecticut, just like so many of us. And what I love about her story isn't just where she ended up, it's how she got here, because it didn't follow one straight path, which is so common for so many of us. From investment banker to banjo, from Connecticut to national stages, and back to Connecticut on April 25th at FTC's Stage 1. She has built something truly entirely on her own, and it's incredible. So today we're not just talking about music, we're talking about passion, pivots, and what it really looks like to follow your heart and follow that thing that keeps calling you back. So Alison, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Paola. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's just get a little grounded, right? From the beginning. Why not? You grew up here in Connecticut. What does it feel like to come back home and perform in your old stomping grounds, something so close to your story?
Oh, I love it so much. I was born in Hartford at St. Francis Hospital and grew up in North Stamford, right on the Stamford-New Canaan border. And I just have the most fond memories of growing up in Connecticut. So every time I get to drive up or down the Merritt Parkway,
Yeah.
it just reminds me of my childhood in the best way. And then whenever we get off, at an exit and actually be in Connecticut and just remember how beautiful Connecticut is, it's just the best feeling.
Yeah. How long were you in Connecticut? When did you actually end up moving away?
You're too young to remember the Great Ice Storm. I think it was like around 1974, 73, 74. Yep, I figured you weren't.
81. I'm an 81 baby.
Okay, well, maybe you've heard of it. It was a pivotal moment for my parents, and they were kind of like, why are we living here? And my dad was practicing law in Greenwich, Connecticut, and had a client in San Diego and flew out to do some business, and it was in the middle of the winter, and it's so beautiful in Southern California in February and
Yeah.
so cold and hard in Connecticut that time of year. And so we moved to Connecticut when I was just starting middle school. But my
To
childhood,
California.
yeah, to
You moved to
California, sorry, to San
Right.
Diego. But my childhood
Ah,
was all, so it's funny because for me, it's like there was a very clear demarcation line.
yeah.
And so when I think of my childhood, I think of Connecticut.
That's wild. And it's funny that it was San Diego because my husband and I always talk about like San Diego has the perfect weather year round.
It has the
It is,
perfect weather. It really does.
it's lovely. It's
It's,
lovely.
it is.
Um, so I read, again, those early days that it was in the Stamford Museum when you first heard Bluegrass. Is that right?
That is true. I think it was a birthday party. My, parents, arranged a birthday party. We went to the Stanford Museum with the kids. Well, I was one of the kids, and
Yeah.
I heard this band called Boot Hill, I think they were called, and they had a
Yeah.
female banjo player, Louisa Branscombe. And that was one of
Amazing.
the first times I ever, maybe probably the first time I ever heard bluegrass. And then we went back, and there was another bluegrass band maybe the next year, Apple Country, with Phil Rosenthal, who went on to play in the Seldom Scene, which is one of the most celebrated like national bands, especially during the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
So yeah, and my first banjo teacher was a law student at UConn. So it's all like came from Connecticut for me.
That's wild. How did you get connected to the law student from UConn? How did
Right.
that happen?
I'm not exactly sure, honestly. My parents both went to UConn Law School, so
Well,
there
there
was
must
a
have been a
connection.
connection.
But
Yeah.
I was taking guitar lessons, and that's how it started. I was taking, started off playing guitar when I was about 8. And he was my first guitar teacher, Paul Guernsey, who I think still lives in Connecticut, actually, brought over a copy of Flatt and Scruggs' Foggy Mountain Banjo record just to a guitar lesson. And I just
Yeah.
loved the sound of the banjo. So my parents said, if you have to practice the guitar first and then maybe next summer you can take banjo lessons. Of course.
Yeah,
So
because who knows if this will even stick, right?
exactly. I mean, I have a couple kids, so I completely get that.
Yeah. So if you take yourself back to that moment, right? Whether it's at the Stanford Museum when you're first hearing a banjo playing, or with your guitar teacher, what have you, what was it about the banjo that specifically grabbed you? Because it's not like the typical instrument that people would normally go for. And at
Absolutely
such a
not.
young age, right? Like what drew you so closely to that?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think for a lot of us, especially, not growing up in the culture and not having, aunts and uncles playing on the front porch or anything like that, I think it's just a case of sometimes I feel like, the instrument chose me.
Yeah,
Um, that's how it feels. But when I heard Earl Scruggs' banjo, it just was just the best sound, the happiest sound. It sounded like so much fun. And it really kind of evoked an idea of another America. Like, growing up in Connecticut in the 70s is one thing, but when you hear the banjo, at least for me, I can't help but think of Appalachia and, the
100%.
and so this other America. And
Yeah.
that was very intriguing to me too.
Yeah. And I mean, I certainly don't play the banjo, but I feel like that same kind of thing where when I hear it, I feel very connected to something from
Mm-hmm.
not even mine, everyone's past.
Right.
There's so much energy and I don't know, love. There's something there that feels and happy. And I don't know. I just feel, I feel like I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing because, it's taken me like decades to really unpack some of the history of the banjo. So the
Yeah.
part of the banjo's history that kind of called to me was very recent, like Girl Scruggs, and bluegrass music, that all is a creation of basically the 1940s. 1945 is considered to be the moment that bluegrass music really came together the way we know it now. So there's all this history of the banjo on our shores, starting with the instrument coming in the memories of the enslaved people from West Africa, coming up through the Caribbean and then to the plantations of the South. That's where the first banjo was like made. That
That's
we,
amazing.
like the precursor of the instrument that we know on American shores. So it was really a black plantation instrument, and it was through the white minstrel shows. This is crazy and probably more than you want to know, but it
No, I
was
want to know it all. This is
so it's
awesome
so
to me.
interesting, right? So it's like to me, like the instrument really tracks American history and America's original sin and slavery, and the instrument got off the plantations through American or through white working class musicians in blackface who learned the plantation repertoire, and those were these minstrel shows. They were hugely popular, and they're like to look back on that stuff now. It's we just almost can't because it's so racist and so many things are just so terrible about it.
Yeah.
But it was the way it was probably the first example of appropriation of African musical culture or black musical culture by white musicians in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so and then, so at the beginning of the 1800s, it was this black plantation instrument, got off the plantations. By the end of the 1800s, it was considered to be like a demure parlor instrument for white, like bourgeois women, young women especially. So it made this really radical transformation. And all this stuff happened way before Earl Scruggs ever played a lick on the banjo. And then the
Oh
banjo
my
was there
gosh.
at the birth of jazz. So it's tracked so much of American history, and it tells
Yeah.
our story, our national story in a really fascinating way for me.
My gosh. I feel like I want to like literally dig in. And
Right?
I might
So
ask this later, but if there's ever like a book or something on this, like I feel like I want to learn more about it because I
yeah.
love finding those ties between like our music and our culture or art and culture and how like when it started, how it, I find that fascinating, how it
Yeah.
evolved throughout the years, how it developed, how it I,
Well,
I
you would really like this story because this instrument's been like it's our national instrument. It's America's instrument.
that's
And you
beautiful.
can't really say that about the guitar. They came here
No.
from Spain, but the
Yeah.
banjo, it was built here in America. And
My gosh.
it's such a great story. And
I want to learn more
it's
about
a
this. Yeah.
marketing story too, because it was really the marketing machine of the manufacturers in the North after the Civil War that
Yeah.
made it such a popular instrument and, marketed it to like the point that there were banjo orchestras on like all the major college campuses. Like my alma mater, there was a women's and a men's banjo orchestra in the 1890s. It's crazy, right? And it
That's
was
wild.
America's most popular instrument.
Oh, I love learning new things. This is so cool. So, okay. So, when can you pinpoint a moment, or what do you think made the shift from this is a fun instrument to play, I like this, to this might be my path. This might be something a little different.
Right. So this was not something that was supposed to happen for sure. Because, like I mentioned, my parents are both lawyers, and they
Yeah.
really, encouraged me to be a doctor. That's what they were hoping to have a doctor in the family. So
Okay.
I was on the pre-med track in college.
Yeah.
And then, when I hit organic chemistry, I was like, this is not for me. So I decided to go to business school after college, like right afterwards. And that's how I became an investment banker. So it was really only after like being submersed in the culture of investment banking and basically
Yeah.
the 24/7 expectations of the job.
It's
And I
hard.
just, it's hard. Hard's okay. But if it's not where your heart is,
Yeah.
um,
It's like you feel like you're, I mean, this might be dramatic, but it feels like you're slowly dying sometimes. Like you're just like, you could be doing more. It's just not
well,
fulfilling at all.
it
Yeah.
depends on who you are because for some of the people I worked with, it was those things. It was completely
Yeah.
fulfilling. It was the thing they woke up in the morning and they like get in the shower and think about a
Yeah.
bond issue structure, and that's what really
Right.
drove them. And I
Yeah.
would think about when am I going to get to play the banjo again? So I just decided to take a little time off from my job. My parents were just so not excited about this.
How
But
old were
I
you around at this time?
Yeah, I was in my mid 20s.
Mid 20s. Okay.
And so I
Oh,
was going
good.
to take 6 months
Yeah.
off and just like see if I could write some music. And as luck and good fortune would have it, Alison Krauss, who I'd met, was looking for a banjo player. And so I was
Job.
able to join her band. And she was 16, 15. I mean, she was a kid. And so I
Oh
spent
my
3
God.
years, like that's really how I really became a banjo player. Well, I was a banjo player. I've been a banjo player
Right.
really since I was 10, but that's when I really got a chance to like live the banjo player's life
Yeah. That was your foot in the door right there.
completely. Yeah.
Oh my God. So you're often described as very innovative with the banjo. What does that actually mean to you? How has your craft evolved, right? I mean, for anyone who listens to the banjo and is just listening to someone play the banjo, it might all feel the same, or it's just, it's because it it feels very fast paced or very like intricate, right? For someone who actually plays the instrument, and even like understanding the history and understanding like everything that we've even talked about so far, like how are you innovating that craft?
Right. Well, I got into the banjo because of Earl Scruggs and bluegrass music. So I play like the style that I play is rooted in three finger. Well, it's really two fingers and your thumb. Three finger
Okay.
style, they call it. So people who play in my style, like there are a lot of people who just basically play the Scruggs repertoire and the pretty straight ahead bluegrass repertoire. And that's the expectation, like when people see a five-string banjo and the three finger, pick thing going on,
Yep.
that's what most people expect to hear. But I've always felt like, there's no reason why you need to limit what you play on the instrument. It's really, it can go anywhere you can imagine that it could go. And so then when I started to write my own music, I found that it took me in a lot of different directions. Like the hardest thing to do is to try to write a Scruggsy kind of tune. I feel like he really covered that ground, and
Right.
everything else is just sort of riffing off what's something's already been done. And so as I started to write music, I found it just took me in these other directions. And it was just really natural and organic to try to incorporate other influences into my style of playing.
Yeah.
So when we do a show as a band, like we'll do a lot of original music and we'll do something that sounds like a Brazilian choro, next to like maybe a Beatles tune or something that sounds a little bluegrassy or something else that sounds more bebop or like early swing. Like all
Yeah.
those threads really exist in the instrument's past too, like maybe with the exception of Brazilian music, but like the banjo has been in so many places like historically here but also
Yeah.
like coming up through the Caribbean too, so there's precedent for the
Hmm.
instrument to go other places, and certainly in jazz. I mean, the banjo was there at the birth of jazz, so to play something jazzy on the banjo is completely in the banjo's DNA. What's cool is to use Earl Scruggs' bluegrass technique to take the instrument like back in a jazz direction.
Right. And that must be so interesting to be able to balance like honoring the tradition, right? While also pushing something forward in your own way. That
That's
must
how
be
I
really
feel,
special.
I mean, there's a lot of guys and gals who can like really, as we say, pile drive the five, or like play really like great right
Yeah.
hand hard driving bluegrass music. And I just always
Yeah.
felt like the place that I could add value maybe would be just by adding my own voice and my own compositions to the repertoire.
Yeah.
So that's kind of in my tact.
Nice. And so when you sit down to actually create your own music, right? Write your own songs, anything like that, where does it usually start for you? Is it a feeling, a sound, or maybe like we'll get into this a little more, but like a collaboration with someone and like really honing into like what do we want to craft together? How
Mm-hmm.
do you usually begin?
Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, because it really it kind of starts all those ways. I mean, sometimes, there's those days where you just pick up your instrument and a tune falls out, and that's great
Yeah.
because then you don't have
Yeah.
to do any work. But then there's
I
other
know.
times where you have like a melodic idea that you just can't really figure out how to develop, and maybe it takes a couple of years or more to figure out where it needs to go. And what's really interesting to me is like I feel like writing or composition is maybe equal parts inspiration and craft, because
Mm,
you can sit down and say like, we have to have a track by 5 o'clock, and you can come up with something. And sometimes the result is as good as the thing that just fell out of the sky. It maybe wasn't as much fun, but so really I find that it comes all different ways. Sometimes I have a tune title, like I read this great book by Tim Severin, who's one of these historical adventurers. He reenacts historical voyages or journeys to see if they could have really happened. And he did this bit, I think, on maybe National Geographic Channel, and wrote a great book about it called The Brendan Voyage, where he reenacted the voyage of Brendan the Navigator, who was an Irish monk who lived around 550 AD. And there's a legend of him and 14 other monks in a leather boat sailing all the way from the west coast of Ireland, and making landfall finally in Newfoundland, Canada. This is in the dark ages, in a handmade leather boat, a journey
this is a
across
lot.
the North Atlantic. And so Tim Severin reenacted this. He built the boat and he got his guys and they made it.
Stop.
They made it. So he proved that it's potentially, the legend is potentially really true, making these
Potentially
guys the
real.
first Europeans to make it to the New World. So I thought that was great. So I wrote a tune called The Wonderful Sea Voyage of Holy St. Brendan. So that was a tune that was like inspired by, a title that came from a book.
That's amazing. That's so fun. I wrote the book down, so I want to like also look into that one.
Oh yeah, it's great, and you should check out too if you can find the show on National Geographic. It was a while ago. It's actually our son's name is Brendan because he's named for Brendan the Navigator. So, and he just turned 19, so it's been a while since the book came out.
But good history, good strong bones to that name.
Yeah, I
I love
agree.
that.
I agree.
um, so speaking of collaborations, I was
Mhm.
mentioning to you before we started recording that I put your name to the face when I realized the connection, which was one of your latest collaborations is with Steve Martin, who's also now a well-known banjoist as well. Um, what a cool intersection of worlds you guys have. How did that relationship come about?
Yeah, it is incredibly cool. Actually, we were in the studio the last 2 days together.
Yeah,
So right, working on some new music, and it's like a privilege. It's fun. It's the cherry on top, really.
right.
Yeah, Steve
He
started
seems
up.
like such a wonderful man. Like he really does seem like
He's
just a cool dude. And love
incredibly
that he has that depth to him too.
well. He loves the banjo as much or more than anyone I've ever met, and as a collaborator,
Amazing.
he just brings an incredibly generous spirit to it. Which has made it really easy. Like it's never angsty. It's always just light and fun. And
Yeah.
so I think it kind of pulls the best out of the collaboration so that rather than worrying, like, should I put this idea out there? You just feel very
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
So it's kind of ended up that we've written some things together that are a surprise to both of us, I think, because it is so just like light and fun.
Yeah. And you can
Steve,
tell when you play, like it feels very like, I don't know. It's just when I watch the both of you and like the entire band, like it just feels like it just flows. It is such, I don't, it's organic. It flows so freely and beautifully. Um, and I'm horrible at trying to describe all these things in the music world, but I like that is what I feel every time I hear you guys play or a banjoist in general. Like there is some, it's so intricate and yet seamless at the same time. And I
yeah,
find that fascinating.
it is an interesting thing about the banjo because it is
Yeah.
like it involves a lot of 16th notes. But if you get it just right, it's almost like water coming out of a faucet, or
Yes. Thank you.
bubbling,
Exactly.
babbling brook or something like that. But but Steve, who is a huge banjo fan, and he created a banjo prize in 2010, and the concept was to award like outstanding kind of journeyman players who just for their excellence as banjo players, and he enlisted six of us to be on his board, and so I was a board member, and I think that's
That's
how
so
we
cool.
really first like got to know each other a little bit. But
Yeah.
then after
That's
a
really
while
awesome.
we got a chance to go out and do some shows with him on his tour with Martin Short when the Steep
Yeah.
Traveling Rangers couldn't make a show, so then we had the time backstage to hang out and play banjos. And then, I was working on my last record and I had a tune in double C tuning, which is a tuning that clawhammer players like. And Steve's interesting because he plays the three finger Scruggs style really well, but he also does the more old time style. It's called clawhammer, where you're like brushing the strings with
Yes.
your nails and then hitting the fifth string with your thumb, kind of like that.
So you no longer have like those
Yeah,
picks,
no pick. So instead of
no
picking
picks.
up on the strings, you're really brushing
You're
down on the
pushing
strings.
down.
And
Oh,
he does both
interesting.
styles really well. So I wrote a start of a tune and I texted him, like, got up my nerve, like, do I dare do this? And I said, do you want to write a B section to a tune? And he texted me right back, yes. And then, like, within a day, he sent this great B section and we were off to the races.
That must be such a beautiful feeling to have someone as passionate and engaged, right? And excited for the same thing that you're excited about. What a great way to collaborate. I mean, that must be something you look for in anyone you collaborate with. Have you had any other fun connections and things in the past throughout? I mean, I know we're kind of close to like what's happening now, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that has led to this moment. Have you had other
Yeah.
fun collaborations?
Well, sure. I mean, generally speaking, I've found that when you reach out to like musicians, they love to make music. I mean, that's what
Yeah,
we all live for. That's the highest high. And I've
yeah,
generally found that when you ask someone if they want to do something, the answer will be yes, more than like no. I mean, like you rarely get a no. It's more people like want to try to make it happen. And I think about
yeah.
Indigo Girls a lot because they're incredibly generous collaborators too. And we've recorded a bunch of
Really?
stuff together. Yeah.
Oh,
Um, I met those guys when they were just starting out. We both did this weird kind of random local TV show in Nashville. I think that was the first time I met them, and it was an interview format like this, but
wow.
very very dry. And
Oh, what?
they were really just like breaking, and so I've known
Yeah.
them a really long time. And they recorded we've recorded a few tracks for my records together, and I've played on a bunch of their records and done some shows with them and stuff. So that's like another great example when you like ask Emily and Amy, like the answers always like yes, let's make this
Yes.
happen. And so
Yeah.
it's a great thing. I mean, it's
It's
really just about the love
amazing.
of the music, and it's not about ego or anything else. It's just everybody
Hmm.
just wants to bring their best game and serve the music the best they can.
Yeah, for sure. So, speaking of life now, what does a typical season of life look like for you? You're touring, you're recording, you're running a label. Like, these are all things we haven't even talked about. Like, more than just being a banjoist, an amazing banjoist, you own your own recording label. So, I'd love to talk about that. I feel like um, you support women in your industry through this. So, tell me how like it, and in the timeline a little bit, how this kind of came about, how you got started, because I feel like that is a huge, like when you think about your legacy and all of this, like that is amazing that you've been able to take your passion, like what you know what's in your heart and what you think about when you're like in the shower, like this is where I'm going to go, this is what I'm going to do. How did the label come about? How have you been changing the way things work in your industry?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for saying all of that. I really appreciate it. We started Compass Records 31 years ago, and I can't really believe it, but I was on tour with Michelle Schacht and the bass player Gary West, who's now my husband, and partner in Compass Records. We co-founded the company together, and we were sitting we were on this European tour with Michelle, sitting in a cafe in Stockholm, Sweden, and like conceiving like of a life in music. Like, how do you make a well-rounded life in music? And unlike investment banking, where you can do investment banking and that's how you
Yeah.
make your living, in music
Yeah.
you have to have a much more kind of diversified portfolio approach. So
Yeah.
we like literally did like the napkin sketch of like how you would do
Yeah,
this. And
the
so
spider, the web.
totally. So it's like it said the good life in the middle, and it had the spokes of the wheel. And one was like touring, one was family, one was start a record label, because we thought we're out there on the road, we're musicians, and we're hearing all this great talent. How cool
Hmm.
would it be to create a platform for other people to help get their music heard? And I was signed to Vanguard Records at the time, so it was really important to us at the beginning that people understand that this isn't a vanity label, it's not a all about me label. It was really all about other people label. The first record of mine we put out was our 25th release, and we've probably got 1,000 titles out now. So that was a while ago. But it's been great. It's like I mentioned, we talked about the investment banker thing, and so I had a little bit of
Yeah.
residual guilt, I guess. So I kind of felt like I needed to and wanted to put that part of my kind of education to work. And I
Yeah.
really do think like supporting the community is a really important thing that we all need to do. It's like if you want this kind of music to exist, you have to support it. And I
Yes.
really feel that way now. It's like when we started the label in 1993,
Hmm.
everyone was saying, wow, we can't believe how much music is coming out every year, 10,000 records a year. Like people were saying this, where are we going to put 10,000 records a year? That was a huge number. This
Yeah,
is all the
it
days of
is.
obviously all physical, right? You were 9, but there were record stores and you might remember what they were like. They were awesome,
100%. I
right?
miss that. I miss the tangible
Yeah, I know.
vinyls, tapes,
You and
CDs,
me both.
everything.
You
I
and me
miss
both.
it. I miss reading the covers, opening them up, seeing the lyrics,
Man,
reading the liner notes,
I
like
so
everything.
hear you. I feel just the same way. So,
Yeah.
like 10,000 records a year is the equivalent of, say, 100,000 tracks, right? Ten
Yeah.
songs on every album, right? Well, 100,000 tracks is what gets uploaded to Spotify a day. That's where we are now.
It's
And
wild to
at the
think about.
same time, the margins have just become razor thin because artists are
Hmm.
getting paid, probably in reality less than half a penny a stream. So when I say like if you believe this stuff should exist and there should be artists playing, eclectic banjo music or bluegrass music or traditionally rooted music of any kind, and
Yeah.
like this isn't just like weird field recordings, but people like a band like Delamay, whose record I just produced, that are out there doing like I think really compelling original music that has
Yeah.
a foot in bluegrass, a foot in string band, a foot in pop. It's just like great acoustic based music. Like if you
Hmm.
believe in that kind of thing, your role as a listener is more important than it's ever been because it really takes the support of the community to sustain it. And I
Yeah.
think that's a lot of our motivation too, is like trying to create recordings that I hope, maybe somebody in 50 years will still be listening to, just the way we still revere John Hartford's Aeroplane record that was recorded in our studio in the 70s. And
Yeah.
like you can pull that record up anytime and find inspiration in it. And my
Yeah.
hope is that we're creating music that somebody somewhere down the line will find the same value in.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well,
I love
thanks.
that. 100%.
I appreciate it. But it's a
Yeah.
slog. It's hard. So, like, when somebody blows a little wind in your sails, that's why I wanted to thank you for saying what you did, Paula. It helps
Oh,
us to keep going because
no,
it's challenging.
absolutely. Absolutely. my husband and I started in a Fairfield Minute, this IAFM, which we're now, it's grown. I mean, we started it during the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
as a way to uplift the community because it was a very tumultuous time. It was
Oh yeah.
uneasy for everybody. And so we said, well, how can we help? Right? How can, I mean, I'm a graphic designer. I have my own business. So I was doing that. My husband he's in sales and like, we're like, how can we help move the needle, at least starting where we are? And we decided to start telling stories. We're good storytellers, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll start helping people in our community by celebrating what they're doing, anything that they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you're changing careers. Some people had to like completely up end their
Mm-hmm.
life, you know, and
Yeah,
it was stressful and it was a struggle.
totally.
And so IAFM came about to kind of hold those stories, and it literally started as a magazine. And here I am designing the magazine, you know, and it was like every
Right.
month we would hand deliver to like our, you
Oh,
know, coffee shops and this and that, or to anyone who wanted to receive it. We would drive to their house and we'd like give them
man,
their
that's beautiful.
magazine, right? Like,
Yeah,
and it's grown since then. Now we're like a mini media group. And
that's
how it's
fantastic.
happened, the magazine is kind of like, I don't have time to design it and print it and do all the things anymore. So now we've kind of had to refocus our model a little bit, but the mission is still there.
Yeah.
And we're still celebrating the arts, music, food, people, community, all the things. But I just love that it's survived,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and continues to thrive because, like you said, it is so important, and that people, you can tell this is, people want this,
Yeah.
people need this.
Right.
And without it, I feel like it would be a very empty world. You know, it's our job as people on this earth to pick each other up, to inspire each other. Yeah,
Well,
so I
big pat on
completely
the
feel that.
back. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
thank you. I mean, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you so much for
Thank
talking
you.
to me about what we're doing. And
I
you're right. It's like,
find it fascinating.
if you want this kind of stuff, like, this handcrafted stuff, whether it's magazine journalism or music, we're all kind of fighting the same fight. And we're all, as in society right now, just like the isolation of technology. It's a real thing. I think about it sometimes when I order something on Amazon that I would have gone to a shop and interacted with other people to get 10 years
100%.
ago. And so, like, there's nothing that builds community like the arts.
I agree. I agree 100%. It
But
is
it,
so embedded
yeah,
in, I don't know, I feel like it's in our fiber. You
completely
know what I
agree.
mean?
Yet we
Right?
live in a culture that doesn't inherently support artists.
I agree.
And so that's
It's
why,
very controlling. It's a
mhm.
different, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's all big tech. So if it's good for big tech to have streams sell for whatever, subscription
yeah.
on Spotify to work out that an artist makes a third of a penny a stream, that's sort
Mhm.
of okay in the macroeconomic sense in American culture. But we've just never had like the patronage gene the way like a European country does. So a lot of our like sister or brothers and sisters across the pond in Ireland or Scotland or England or even up in Canada where they can get like government grants to do recordings. There's nothing like that that exists to
No,
support artists here.
it's
So
very sad.
so for
I
anyone
feel
who's
that.
listening who believes in this stuff, just and I just want them to feel empowered to know that every
Mhm.
action that they take to support artists is more meaningful now than it's ever been.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Um, your latest Pick Like a Girl,
Ah,
right? Is that
that's
the
a
name of it?
so my that's a radio show actually. I started
The
to
radio show.
yeah, to support women in bluegrass because I just
Yeah,
felt like, I mean, bluegrass music was created like the founding fathers of bluegrass music are fathers. Like it was all
right.
men, right? But we all know that there were women along the way. They just never were in the spotlight and things really started to change in this, I would say, really started to change in the 80s and 90s. And to me, there were some artists along the way. Hazel Dickens is one who was a pioneer in the 60s, and Gloria Bell would be another one. But when Alison Krauss broke in the early 90s. To me, that was a real watershed moment for bluegrass music. And I really feel like, before that, there weren't that many female band leaders. Now there are a
Yeah.
lot more, but we're still a minority. So anyway, I
Mhm.
wanted to start a show for the Bluegrass Junction channel to celebrate women in bluegrass. So it's a weekly show,
Nice.
hour long, and it's all women in bluegrass. And it's been
So
great for
fun.
me because I've discovered a lot of up and coming women. It was just part of what I wanted to do is support up and comers, but then, the trailblazers too get their time. and
Of course.
and I think it's kind of a great flag to rally around, because it's like bluegrass music was created by men, but I really feel like its future in many ways is in the hands of the women who are on the cutting edge. Sierra Hull, who's amazing, Molly Tuttle. I mean, there's so many now that are really
Yeah.
drawing new fans to the music because honestly, who wouldn't want to sing, hear Molly Tuttle sing anything? It's like
Yeah.
not as ethnic a sound as like the high lonesome male vocal, which I love, but it took me a while to get used to when I got into bluegrass at first.
Hmm.
But a female voice singing bluegrass music is just and easy for anyone to get next to. So I think
Yeah.
that women are just the best ambassadors for the music.
Yeah. What do you hope younger women see when they look at your path or even hear the path of,
Mhm.
people that you're interviewing on Pick Like a Girl?
Oh, that I can do it too, because I think it's really hard to imagine yourself doing something if you don't see someone that looks like you doing it.
Hmm.
And so if you only see like hairy-legged guys playing the banjo, it's a little harder if you're a woman to imagine yourself on the road in that band, on that stage, in that
Yeah.
moment that could be you. But when you see another woman do it, then it becomes a lot easier. It's like really inspirational. And we've got an occasional collaboration called the First Ladies of Bluegrass, and it's all the women who were the first women to win the International Bluegrass Music Association Award for Instrumentalist of the Year on their instrument. So it's just a
Oh,
really special group, and it's Molly
yeah.
and Sierra, Missy Raines, and Becky Buller and me. And when we go out and play, just like to see people like in tears surprised me initially, but
Yeah.
it has a lot of impact to see how you can kind of break through preconceived notions of who can play this music and at what level, and then to see all
Yeah.
the little girls in the front, you really
Yeah.
feel like you said, we were all here to uplift and inspire each other, but when you can
Yeah.
actually see it happening in real time, it's really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you, like, what is your most proud moment? That almost feels like a super proud moment. I mean, you've achieved so much, right? We've talked about the fact that you're a winner, a Hall of Famer, which are amazing accomplishments and not to be downplayed by any means. But I feel like when you talk about, right, like people that inspire you or ways that you're inspiring others, you light
Mhm.
up.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like we're all kind of a link in the chain, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's a good
so
way to
to
put
be
it.
able
Yeah.
to, like, when you grow up playing banjo, like the tradition is, and the way I learned a lot of it, we moved to San Diego when I was 12, and we discovered the San Diego Bluegrass Club, and the jam sessions were in the parking lot. And so you could just go out there with your banjo, and anything anybody was doing, they would always stop and show it to you, and that's how we learn. So, like, getting to be
Amazing.
playing that, like everything that someone took time out from their jam to show me. Now
Right.
I get to have the privilege of playing it forward. And that's the best thing. And that's why I started an Artist Works online teaching school, just for the same reason, because playing the tradition forward, it's
Yeah,
it's a responsibility, but a very positive kind of responsibility. It's really a
for
privilege,
sure. For sure. Um, so through all of this, what do you feel like keeps you grounded the most? Like when things get overwhelming, especially, what kind of recenters you?
Well, I mean, it's always like the banjo for
It's
me.
always coming back. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
music, it's just like, I don't know if it's the vibration of the instrument or whatever it is, but it's just
Interesting.
it really helps me find my center. And
Yeah,
and I think,
yeah.
you don't have to be able to shred on an instrument to be able to find that kind of inner peace through the process of playing music. And that's
Hmm.
a lot of what I like to tell other, people who are wanting to learn to play the banjo. It's like if
Yeah,
you can learn a few songs, Because it takes your mind off everything else that you're worried about if you're making music. And then if you know a few chords, then you can make music with other people. Then you can start to build community, and then you're off to the races.
Right? That's so beautiful. I love how music does that. Because I grew up playing instruments. I mean, I was okay. Nothing I ever stuck with, right? But I played the piano. I wasn't that great at it. I played the violin in school. I played the flute,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Wasn't ever great,
Yeah.
great or whatever. But I love that my parents like instilled that in us and were able to facilitate those lessons. And um like I still remember Sunday mornings waking up to hearing Vivaldi, classical
Oh, that's so
music, and
good.
like
Yeah.
that's how they woke us up in the morning, as they played songs that we were learning in our class, just
Oh,
whatever. And we
that's
woke
so
up to
good.
music every morning. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that. We
Mm-hmm.
would hear it playing downstairs and we're like, oh, okay, time to get up.
Oh,
Um, so I definitely, I can feel what you're saying. I think that there is something very grounding. I find it grounding. I'm not even a musician, but I find it that I go back to music to find calm. I don't know.
mm-hmm.
It's very calming to me. It brings me back to home. I mean, I have my all, obviously different, correlations that I build with it,
Mm-hmm.
but music is just something so important, I feel like, in people's lives
I completely
in
agree. And
general.
I mean, there's no like date stamp on it. So like
No,
if you want to play the banjo and you're 70 or 80, play the banjo. You don't
right?
have to just do what you started as a kid. That's
Yeah.
one thing that's kind of been surprising to me, but doing this online school, how many of my students have just retired. So somewhere there's a book that says, when you retire, here are some suggestions for things you could do. And banjos, like take
Joe.
banjo lessons, but it is really great and it's interesting to me because people are choosing to do this completely elective. It's like your
Yes.
parents aren't making you do it. They're
Yes.
just like choosing to spend like their precious time doing this and finding so much joy in it. So I think there
Yes.
really is something to what we're saying. I think it's a real thing.
100%. Yeah, our time is valuable. Time
Mm-hmm.
is valuable. So to be choosing it to
Mm-hmm.
find joy in this, or
Right.
whatever instrument makes you tick, you know what I mean? Whatever
Exactly.
it is,
It's like, yeah, you can
that's
find
amazing.
joy and connection, and it's a great thing. It really
Yeah.
is.
Oh, I love that,
Yeah.
Allison. That's so
Yeah.
nice. Okay, well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I like to try and wrap up podcasts by just throwing some quick hit questions.
Okay.
Nothing crazy.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
favorite place to perform for you.
Oh, there's so
Ooh.
many. That's actually is a
Just
hard
kidding.
question.
They're very difficult
Okay,
questions.
how many favorite places can I have?
I don't care. You can
Okay.
have as many as you want.
Okay, so the first two that popped in my mind are the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, which is the original home of the
Nashville.
Grand Ole Opry, built in the
Yes.
1800s. The room is just so intimate, even though it's like 1,700 seats. The stage is low set, so that's just a magical place to play. So that was one. And the other one that popped in my head immediately was in Boothbay Harbor, Maine. It's the Boothbay Opera House, built in 1894. And I just love playing that room. It's like you drive to the end of the road and then you drive some more and then you get to Boothbay Harbor. That's how it always feels. But it's
Yeah.
just that room was built during the heyday of the banjo. And so whenever I
Yeah.
stand on that stage, I love to imagine like what other
What it
banjo
must be
players have
like.
stood there. It's just,
Right?
and in Boothbay Harbor,
How
Maine.
special.
And it's so
How
cool. It's just,
special.
and it's a beautiful little town. It's where they shot Carousel, like the movie of the musical.
The musical.
So it like
Yeah.
would have been done in the 50s or something like that. So it's like quintessential Maine coastal vibe. So
So
there's two.
quick follow up to that, because they both sounded interesting. But do you prefer having a more intimate setting when you
Yes,
perform, right?
totally. I mean,
Versus a larger.
I love to be able to see people's faces. Like I don't like it if the house lights are too low. I mean, I like to watch the audience,
Yeah.
Because again, it's like a case of these people have decided to like spend hard-earned money and spent precious time to be here in this moment. And so like actually that connection is really important.
Yes. I like that. I agree. As a member of the audience, I agree. Is there a song that always brings you back to yourself? Maybe it's one that you wrote,
Hmm.
maybe not.
Oh, these are really hard questions. A song that brings me back to myself.
Is there one?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're like needing to take like a little like moment to yourself, or like something is stressing you out maybe, and you pick up the banjo, what is like that song that you kind of like go to kind of just
Hmm. Yeah,
let's settle it down?
I think that, just I'm not sure there's a specific song, but just
Yeah.
going back and like remembering how I got here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just take like one of the first tunes I ever learned on the banjo and just remember how challenging like coming to the banjo as a guitar player. Well, I was
Yeah. Or a
nine,
complete
10 or
newbie.
whatever, like 2 years into the guitar. But, just the challenge of the instrument, like the physicality of it was challenging and
Hmm.
like the picks were challenging and all these things I remember so clearly, which I love to remind my students of. This might
Yeah.
feel weird at first, but trust me, it gets better. I think that's grounding to me because then I can just remember the beginning.
Yeah.
Because my journey is a lot of like the road less traveled by stuff.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so when I go back to like the very beginning of the road and think about like how it started and just the love of this instrument and that I just find that grounding.
Yeah. I love that. I get that. Is there any one random thing people would be surprised to know about you? Used to be completely unrelated to the banjo.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I love traveling, which is good. Like if you're a touring musician, it's probably a good thing to love
Yeah,
traveling.
it's good to
Otherwise,
like
you
to
would not
try.
be happy. And connecting with people, and I really enjoy learning foreign languages. I don't know if that's would be a surprising thing.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
many languages do you speak?
not that many that well, but I mean French and Spanish, and I'd like dabble in Japanese, and that's like my dream some days to do better.
That's
And I
awesome,
like a little bit of
though.
Italian, but I would be,
That's great.
yeah. But
I love that.
I think that learning other languages gives you a really unique insight into other cultures. And especially when you get
Agreed.
into Asian languages, because just the word order and honorifics and everything just kind of gives you just peering into a very different way of looking at the world than the Western way of looking at it. So, if I had
Agreed.
copious amounts of spare time, that's something I would do, is dig more
Yeah,
into that stuff.
I agree. I like that. I only speak Spanish outside of English, and I can get by with
I
Italian.
was thinking you
But
must have some Italian heritage.
so my dad is like, his dad was off the boat. His parents were off the boat. He was born in Brooklyn.
Hmm.
But
So is my dad. That's just funny.
really,
Hmm.
really. So I never like, I learned a little through my dad, but
Hmm.
he had also kind of like lost the Italian a bit by the time we were growing up.
Right.
And it was all just due to like his parents at that time. Not that they didn't want him to know Italian, they want him to fit
The
in,
American.
so
Yeah.
they were worried. And so they tried to always have them, they understood Italian. His parents would speak to them in Italian. That's all they spoke. But they would always have them answer in English, and so um I got whatever, like, we a little trickle
Trickled.
down,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
I
that's
want
cool.
to learn it more.
Hmm.
But you mentioned Japanese. Like, my son, like, he's huge into anime. He loves the
Oh.
Japanese culture, and his dream, like in our dream too, is when he graduates high school, is like, oh my gosh, we want to take you to Japan. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah.
So I would love to learn that with him, and just,
Do it. It's so fascinating. We've toured in Japan, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times. And so I always try to learn, like I always like take Japanese lessons before we go and try to learn enough so that I can MC the show in Japanese because it's one of the places we can go that people really aren't going to speak your language, you know?
Yeah,
And if
yeah,
you can like
truly.
understand a little bit of Japanese and say a few things, it just opens up so many more possibilities for your appreciation of the culture. I can't recommend
Yeah.
it more highly. I love Japan. It's
Oh,
amazing.
I'm excited. I really like that is the goal. That is what we're working towards. So I'm really excited about
Okay,
that.
well, I encourage that. Do it.
And the last thing before we wrap up, um, you're from Connecticut. Is there anything food wise or otherwise that you're excited to kind of come back and revisit when you're back in town?
The thing about touring is you never have any time. But whenever we have any time, I love to go back to Stanford. And I
Yeah.
love to like drive by the, the Stamford Museum and like the whole like, colonial New England
Yes, I
roots and
agree.
origins. I was a history major in college, so that stuff really rings my bell.
Uh,
And it's just amazing to think about, Connecticut in the context of, well, really everything, like what was going on in the 1700s and where I used to live. And then, of course, like what was going on with the banjo then. And there wouldn't have been any banjos in Connecticut yet, but wait 150 years, they're going to be everywhere.
isn't that wild to think
It's,
about?
it's
That is
so
cool.
cool. It's so
That is
cool.
cool. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Allison, for all your time. Truthfully, like honestly, like I've been so excited to talk to you.
Oh, that's so
I'm
sweet.
so grateful for your time.
Oh, well, back at
I
you,
can only
really.
imagine that you're swamped all the time,
Well,
especially touring.
no, it's my pleasure to talk to you, really. It was so fun, and it's so interesting to learn about what you're doing too. So keep up the great work.
Thank
I know
you.
it's how hard it is,
I
um,
know.
and so,
I know.
and personally speaking, I really appreciate you doing this because getting the word out is still challenging, you know.
Oh,
Um,
I can imagine.
so
Yeah.
thank
No,
you,
anytime you're
thank
you're
you.
around here or anywhere in Fairfield County, like we like to cover, I mean, we all enjoy Fairfield County, even in New York, like we're like I said, we're here to help support the arts
Yeah.
however possible.
Well,
And everyone, if you're in Fairfield, Connecticut or near Fairfield, Connecticut, April 25th at FTC's Stage One. Allison's going to be playing there with her band. Doors are at 7. Show is going to be at 8 p.m. Tickets, just head over to fairfieldtheater.org. And that's theater with TRE at the end. Get your tickets today. We are so excited to have you in our neck of the woods.
well, thank you so much, Paula. It's so great to talk to you.
Likewise.
All right.
All right. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Paula.
Bye bye.
See ya.